Hey everyone, welcome back to the Occult Rejects. Monday, early afternoon, late morning, coming at you with three of my favorite podcasters. Well, four. I do have Teresa, my amazing Canadian co host, with me today as well. But I get to have Hush Hush Conspiracy Guys on the Occult Rejects finally. They have been on the NY Patriot show numerous times. They are one of my favorite guests to have on. They bring a lot of info and knowledge with a lot of laughs. To me, you can't beat that. You know, those are the type of people I can get down with. And I'm glad to actually finally have them on the Occult Rejects, a little bit bigger of a platform. I get to advertise them better, and it's just nice to bring them onto the Occult Rejects community. So, without further ado, I guess I'll start off with Teresa first, since she is co-hosting. Teresa, would you like to say what's up to everyone, and would you like to plug any links that you have?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited because we always have a blast with these three
Oh, yeah.
characters.
Always.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm Teresa. What's up? If you have not heard me, probably you have, and you're sick of me. No, I'm kidding. But if you're not sick of me, you can check out more of me and NY on the Spiritual Gangsters podcast as well, where we talk about different stuff in here. It's a little more laid back, personal conversations and stuff. So it's cool. Check it out. YouTube and all the major podcast platforms. It's just like cool chats for the awake and aware crowd.
That's what's up. Yeah, and those links will be in the bottom. And I guess maybe we'll go Mike, Frank, and Dave. Whoever, I guess Mike, I guess you'll introduce the podcast, but then after that, you can all go over who you are and all that.
Sure. I'm Mystery Mike from the Hush Hush Society Conspiracy Hour. You may have heard of us, you may have not. If not, hello. I co host with my boys here, and we go over conspiracies, true crime, mysteries, fringe science, a little bit of everything, cults, especially. And we like to hang out. HushHushSociety.com if you're interested. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. Frank, you want to go and just because I know you guys also kind of have your own social media as well, so maybe you guys can all plug your your own personal stuff if you'd like.
I hear you. I appreciate it. Well, first off, thank you guys for having us on. Like you said, it is always an absolute blast. I am Slick Frank Sanders. Socials, you can find me as Slick Frank Sanders or Frank Sanders, depending on where you look. I'm not everywhere, but if you're interested, that's how you're going to find me.
Awesome. Thank you. And Dave, and I even bring this up to plug your own stuff because I do know Dave is a little bit more of an active poster than some of the rest of you guys. So.
I shit post all of
I know. I've been noticing, actually. I was like, this is great.
Well, you can find all of our socials on our website. We have guest profiles at the bottom of the homepage, too. So if you're ever interested in finding all of that, mine is at Declassified Dave pretty much everywhere. So if you want to see my awful humor and pictures of tacos and pizza, then that's pretty much where you'll find that.
What are you trying to tell us, Dave? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. What are you trying to say, Dave?
I love
shit. You just witnessed the end of our podcast.
What?
Oh, man. I just got that. Oh.
No, it's hot dogs and pizza, not tacos and pizza.
Okay.
I said tacos and pizza.
Oh, sorry. It's my own mind.
No glizzies. No glizzies.
What was she thinking about? Tacos? Whatever.
These guys are absolute fucking pedophiles. They gotta go.
But and you know what is great about the topic that for one, the topic I have you coming on for, believe it or not, is probably one of the most suggested ones given to me to cover.
Really?
Oh yeah, and it was just like I thought it was just such a great idea, and I did want to cover it. It's just I was like busy with so many other things. That's why I kind of mentioned it to one of you guys.
Yeah.
And then I saw you guys ended up covering it, and I was like, well, this worked out great because I'll just have them on and do it. So.
Yeah, you hit us up, and I saw the message. I was talking to you, and then I talked to the boys. I was like, hey, NY wants us to cover this. I think we should do it. Fucking lizard cult, let's go for it. And I think we put it in a few shows later. So yeah, definitely worked out for both of us.
Yeah, yeah. I
a great
assumed it
topic.
just had like all the markings of something you guys would get a kick out of. You know.
For
Yeah,
sure.
it was super interesting, and I'm surprised I didn't hear about it sooner. That's the one thing that I
Or
was
yeah.
super intrigued by. Mike mentioned it, I think back in October, November. It was supposed to be a different episode. We switched it up, and I was like, "Who the hell is this Sherry Shriner chick?" And looked into it, and I was like, "Oh, perfect,
You like lizard people?
perfect."
Cult?
Lizard people,
Yeah.
yeah, cults,
It
Love
hit,
it.
it hit all the major talking points that we
energetic
love.
hockey pucks. We're all there.
Just looks good on paper.
Oh
There
my
you
god.
go.
Was that Cakes of Light? Energetic hockey pucks?
Cakes of light. New podcast idea: Cakes of light.
Don't do it, bro.
We'll just sell
Uh,
Orgon.
so I guess whichever one of you really want to kick it off on who is Sherry Shriner or whatever, and what did she do?
Just to get a rounded off basis on Sherry Shriner and how she started up what she got into. I mean, she was a resident in Ohio, fairly regular lady, and she was well educated. She went to college and university studying journalism and politics and all that shit. And she ended up finding herself dwelling on online chat forums about conspiracies and the occult and everything of that nature. And she got so into it that she ended up actually creating like an online talk show where she would talk about this stuff. And that went on for well over a decade, like 14 or 15 years. And she was able to amass this huge group of people that listened to her pretty much religiously, where she was able to preach her cultic like conspiracy gospel to the masses.
She was really grew up in a really strict, I think, religious home, like a Baptist church home. And like Frank said, she was into journalism, political science. I think she had 3 degrees or something like that. Political science, criminal justice, I believe, was another one. But she went to a school, one of the colleges, and at the college, she started a radio station. And that's really when she started getting into it. And she started publishing, I think she has 2 books that she published in 2001 and 2005 or something like that. But she really got into it heavy with this radio station. And then eventually it flourished into YouTube.
You know, I'm just even wondering, like, just even the stuff that she went to school with and having that experience. You'd almost have to wonder, does this person already know like good NLP stuff? Like, you already know how to like hook people with your words on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
And
Definitely, I'm sure, worked in her benefit.
Oh, for sure. She, the amount of money that she might have made is questionable, but it was definitely a full-time job for her doing what she was doing. She did her radio show, like Frank said, for well over a decade, and she did it every single day for hours, and she never missed a day, and it was 7 days a week.
Oh.
And as we're talking about her getting to journalism, she originally wanted to be a White House reporter. That was like her end all be all.
So then you'd have to be a reptilian, though. That could be
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I think the whole belief system of reptilians and her being a messenger of God and all these other things kind of spawned out of boredom of like being a housewife, because she did have all these lofty goals for a long while, and then she got pregnant and she got married, and after that she was just essentially a housewife. And that's when she really dove deep into the conspiracy stuff, and she really started getting into it, and putting herself into all these different groups online and in real life. So
I find that
it
funny
really
that you even mentioned the housewives. I feel like even right now there's like this thing that's moving through like housewives' homes. This air that just sweeps through, and they start thinking they're having visions of like Michael or these other people that are telling them what to think and say now.
Oh, now with
It's
TikTok and all this,
it's like a almost like a cool thing nowadays.
Yeah. Well, now with TikTok, now you see a bunch of normies making these TikTok videos that get 100K views on stitched up conspiracies that have been talked about for 50 years, but just cutting them. So I'm getting a lot of people that do not give a shit about conspiracy theories. And they're like, have you heard about this? And I'm like, well, you're 77 years late, but yeah, I've heard about that. And
we've been telling you to listen to our show for 3 years now.
Yeah.
I noticed that too online. It's like a resurgence. It feels like 2020 all over again. Not to say 2020 is the only year of conspiracies, but a large, burst of awakening. And it's like all these same clips coming back that I'm like, I saw this 3 years ago. Like, why are you sending this to me now? And like, it's like, oh my God, have you heard about this? Yeah, bro.
you know how I can even prove that that's happening is that why is a Weird Al video that's years old that I took a 40-second clip out of and posted it on Instagram over a month ago still getting reposted and almost at like a 750,000 views?
Yeah.
How does something like that go viral? It's old as shit, and people are like, oh my God, look at this, and they think it's new.
They did just come out with that Weird Al movie.
It's just like, it's just like, I hate to say it, it's just you haven't caught up yet, people.
Yeah.
I guess because more people, became more aware during the last few years. Now they're sort of like latching onto these things and gravitating toward these things. But I have noticed a trend in the truther space in the last, various few years or whatever, that some people are more gravitating to like, oh, I have got this message from God. And all of a sudden, I'm like, whoa. I see a lot of people like taking a dramatic turn in their messaging, and it's a little bit odd.
It's the 5G. No.
Everybody's having a Joseph Smith moment.
Yes.
You're going to see a sudden influx of new
Angel Moroni came and told me.
Fuck.
Well, this kind of goes hand in hand with this cult, because she did write 2 books, and one was called Aliens on the Internet, and the other one was called Bible Codes Revealed. So,
damn.
Yeah, I've been trying to find them. I don't know if you can get them on Amazon.
I saw one on Amazon. Yeah, you can buy it.
Okay, I'm gonna have to buy them. They look very interesting because she talks a lot about what a lot of people are talking about right now, which is, like the false prophet coming back and aliens re-landing, and she talks about the cover-ups in Roswell and all that other shit that happened in the 40s and 50s, and so she's really big. Obviously, she believed reptilians were doing all of the bidding. So she's very, very heavy that we're talking about this now. And all this stuff is like what a majority of shows and people are talking about.
Well, we were saying before we recorded, I was like, guys, is it weird that I find a lot of what she was talking about is not that far-fetched? I was like, what does that say about me? I don't know. But that's how you could get sucked up into it, right?
Yeah. Either it's not far-fetched. Either it's not far-fetched, or we've just seen so much of it that we've become so normalized to it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what garnered her such a huge population of listenership and just really devoted people, like followers, is that she was speaking about this stuff when nobody was speaking about this stuff, or very few people were speaking about this.
Mm-hmm.
David Icke was the first proponent of like the lizard mind and the reptilians and all this other stuff going on national television and saying it. And she just picked that up and went with it around the time of the inception of the internet. So she took that ability to reach a wide array of people and spread that message. And we were talking about it, like she at one point she had so many followers that if realistically all of her followers and her really got together in a physical meeting, she would have had one of the biggest cult followings in the world.
She had 6,000 subscribers in 2017 with over 1 million views in YouTube.
Oh. Yeah, and that's just YouTube alone.
That's just YouTube, yeah. Not only her website, which had the radio show hosted on it as well.
And think about it this way. it's one thing if we say like, oh, we have 6,000 listeners or 6,000 subscribers. If we were to go on tomorrow and record a show and say, hey, everybody, we want you to go and buy this piece of fucking resin from us, and we want you to go out and spread it, and we want you to do this, and we want you to do that, and we were essentially giving commands through the internet, nobody would listen to us. But she had thousands of people that were listening to her and thousands of people that were going and performing these missions for her. So she had this powerful, powerful backing of people.
Well, she also, sorry, for 15 years, she did that on a radio show, and radio was popular. Obviously, it flourished into podcasting, essentially on YouTube. But her claims are wild. She claims that she was one of the 14 daughters of God. Like, so she claims that she was a celestial being from the get-go. So if you got a couple thousand people that are like, whoa, especially in the early 2000s, that's really going to grab you. That would have grabbed me.
I would have perked my ears up for sure.
Would have been like, hey, let's talk.
What I find even more, like, really interesting about this, though, is that we'll take our shows, for example, all three of us. Maybe our idea of our podcast kind of has like an underlying theme, but every episode is like covering something different. She was very much kind of specific at what she was talking about constantly. So like, instead of having people who, like, we'll just say go with the 6,000 still, 6,000 listeners that find, your show interesting, it's because of maybe of all that specific stuff. You have 6,000 people that are all set on that one idea this person has been going on about for a while. That's like, seriously, like, that's a lot of soldiers if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. And to think, and I think this was another part of it, is the psychology behind it, is that she referred to her followers as warriors they were like warriors of God. So like in following her, they were also a part of this massive army, and they were a part of this massive following that was a direct lineage to God himself. And by following Sherry, you were essentially like walking hand in hand with God. So she definitely knew what she was doing. She was a genius at marketing, I'll tell you.
She claimed to be a granddaughter of King David, I believe.
Yeah, she made a lot of really great claims. Like,
sounds very Q-esque. The warriors and
it sounds also very like Warren Jeffs in the sense of like, I'm that guy would almost be like, if you listen to me, then you're listening to God, and you'll be, almost the same shit kind of.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a slippery slope to chaos. Slippery slope.
Slippery slope to selling your own will.
Well, it was one of the first virtual cults too.
She's an OG pioneer, this lady.
Yeah.
Legit. Podcasting, broadcasting, culting, whatever.
Yeah. We owe a lot of stuff to Sherry Schreiner.
Right?
So, like, what you were saying before, is she like, because I remember just from being, getting into this stuff back in the day. I remember when David Icke started coming out and started doing his long shows, and they used to be on YouTube. Mysteriously, just all disappeared now. But all tons of stuff of his stuff was on YouTube. He started getting heavily into the reptilians. I do feel like that idea almost blew up in itself as its own niche.
Yeah.
And was she from like back then? Is that what you guys are kind of like saying too? Like, she was around that time when I guess reptilians became a sellable thing.
Even
so
before,
like,
I would say
late 90s.
Yeah.
Late 90s.
Oh, maybe she was even really.
She's a little behind it, but she sold it as like, yeah, they're reptilians, but technically they're demons. So she kind of snowballed the whole idea of alien entities, reptilians, and demons. That's
interesting.
She's like a Christianized Ike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the biggest things she said in 2016, which is really really relevant right now, is that she said about everybody you see on TV, 90% in TV commercials, news anchors, sports celebrities, that they're all either clones or synthetic reptoids. That's one thing that she was big on.
And
And
then you
everybody's
start
talking
seeing
about it
those
now.
shitty clips with their
Yeah.
eyes going all wild and the
Oh, for
egg
real.
coming out of Hillary's mouth.
Face turns into Play-Doh. Yeah.
No lie. My friend is a medium, and she just told me that she had her first reptilian client.
What?
Just she said, I
Whoa.
just
Did it lick her
whatever.
hand?
Well, no, she's like, at first she thought, I'll just tell you quickly. At
She
first
watched
she
it
thought it
on
was,
eyebrow.
no, she
Like,
thought it was someone who's just like mentally off or whatever. But her spiritual crew, as she calls it, who communicates with her crew is telling her, just be patient. We're going to tell you after what's going on. Just talk to her like normal. So she entertained the person, and the person was claiming to be Justin Bieber's mom.
Oh,
Yeah. And that she was mad. The reason why she came to my friend was because she was mad at the angels for plopping her here on Earth, and that she was like a celestial being who's trapped in this like skin suit. That's what she was saying. And my friend noticed her eyes glitching out. She, like, it was fun.
like in person.
In person, yeah, like
That's
just across the table from her. So then after the lady left, her spiritual crew told her that that was a reptilian, and that she was like a masquerading as a person, and that these reptilians use information from the internet to like create a personality.
it's weird.
Huh.
You know what's wild? I guess like, coming from a magician, like for me, if that happened to me, I think I'd actually question what's wrong up in here that I saw it look like that.
Yeah. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, but it's funny how people automatically jump to that. Or correct. No, it's just,
Oh, but yeah.
So are we implying that there might not be just weird people out there, that they're all NPC reptilians that are stuck in
Maybe that's
human
what
skin suits?
maybe that's what weird people are.
that's
Can you
like that.
imagine?
You
I've
remember
got
that
so many
TV show?
reptilian friends. Holy shit.
Maybe that's where Sherry Shriner got it all from, was that V show with those reptilian aliens.
Maybe she's a fucking reptilian. She knows so much about it. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I digress.
I do find it interesting, real quick, that you did mention like the demons and aliens
Yeah.
being the same thing. I wonder if that kind of spawned that somewhat popular idea that aliens are demons.
It definitely might have. Like we've discussed that sort of gray area tons of times. The
Gray.
big differences between the differences between an alien or a demon or a reptilian. Are they all one and the same? Are they different subsects of the same entity? That definitely could have popularized it.
All right, you can go now, Mike. I know I interrupted you. Sorry.
With the David Icke thing, we had him on our show, and
Nice.
what I've come to realize is that when David Icke mentions reptilians and he mentions just these overlords, he is mostly talking about like a reptilian consciousness. And I think back when he talked about that and people ran with that idea, they turned it into this physical entity where they were saying, okay, politicians have fake faces on and they're covering up their scales and all this other stuff.
I
And
think when
even
he gets into reptilians, he's actually covering some very deep stuff. And
yeah,
probably 95% of the people listening have no idea what he's saying, unfortunately, and then created what you just said, their own idea what a reptilian is.
yeah. And mostly, if you listen to what he's actually saying and what he actually talks about, he's talking about consciousness. That's really what it is. It's different levels of consciousness, and darkness and consciousness versus light versus good and bad, and this ability for certain dark consciousness to keep us at a low vibration, to keep us in this shitty spot essentially. And that's why it seemed kind of weird to a lot of people that he would start to get into this whole subsect of new things that he's getting into regarding mental health. So like he took this very big turn a few years ago where he went from the conspiracy theorist to, I mean, he very much is still the conspiracy theorist, but he took that turn into mental health issues, and he started to do these backings for, in these public events, talking about mental health and getting into all these things and doing these panels about mental health. And a lot of people were very set back by that, because they looked at it and they go, oh, this is the reptilian guy, what the hell is he talking about? And those are the same people that took it and said, yeah, he's talking about physical entities that are reptilian, as opposed to listening to what he was saying about consciousness. So
I
Which
don't
is
think
like,
that's
that's
kind of
a very weird progression for him, though, because realistically, he was putting out this truth about a reptilian consciousness for decades. And once you've exhausted all of that information to the public, what's the next step? Like, you've informed all of your listeners, hey, this is what's going on. Here are the facts. The natural progression would probably be, okay, now what can I do to help these people? How can these people help themselves?
yeah, how to
And it
remedy
all
the
starts with
situation.
mental health, probably.
Because he had mentioned, like Mike said, he had mentioned the lower vibrational state that people were in, the lower frequency, as what is it, the Wetiko consciousness.
Mhm.
And he
Mhm.
talked a lot about like how that's big in Mesoamerica and ancient cultures, and how that's something that's kind of like I mean, obviously there's a portion of our anatomy in our brain that is like a reptilian part of the brain. And it might not physically be because we were designed by reptilian beings, but it could just be that lower vibrational state. And we had actually mentioned this the other day when we were doing a episode. We did an episode on porn conspiracies and the addiction portion. And we haven't, I haven't personally, I don't know about the other two, you guys, but I haven't done too much research in like the chakras and all of that vibrational energy. But I know you guys are more, have done a
We're
lot more
actually
research.
recording. We're recording part 2 of a series on the chakras this week.
Yeah.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
that could have been, like Mike said, very well what he was talking about. Maybe in the beginning he was talking about actual physical reptilians and then realized shortly after. But I think people might have misinterpreted his words and might even misinterpret Sherry Schreiner's words. She might not be actually talking about physical entities, but she did mention that, there was definitely some physicality to it.
And the instances in which they're both kind of similar in the way that they had their kind of awakening to all this, is very
Oh, I was
open
going to
to.
ask about that with her actually.
Yeah, it's very open to interpretation. Ike talks about how he was mountain climbing or hiking, and it started to rain, and all of a sudden it was like he had this very profound moment where all of a sudden he had this clarity, and it was just a whole big thing. But Sherry was kind of in the same vein, nothing as beautiful sounding as what David Icke went through, but she went through kind of this research, and then she started having dreams, and she started having visions of what she was on this earth for and who she really was. And for a while she kind of said that she had like amnesia, like she didn't know who she really was, and then all of a sudden she knew exactly who she was. And she had a name in heaven. What was it? Queen Shazarazi or something similar.
Was it
Yeah.
like Shamaran? Does it sound like that?
Dave, you remember, was that Shazarazi or was it?
Shazarazi, yeah.
Yeah, it was Queen Shazarazi. And she was, Dave mentioned it earlier, she was one of 14 of God's children, 12 females, and then there are 2 males, Jesus and the devil, Lucifer. So she would talk about that. And that was kind of her awakening, is like realizing who she really was in her own mind, obviously. But
See, this is where I start to wonder about it becoming. All this is due to magical experiences. Just from my own experience, I don't know why, but it somehow did, and like I guess like again, just from my experience, when I've had supposed magical experiences, you do get this fluttering or downloading of information or ideas, and sometimes things that didn't make sense to you will start to click in your mind. Sometimes too much at once, and it gets like overwhelming. But what I'm trying to get at is that, like, to me, I understood what reptilians meant from the way I looked at it and from like things I've heard with David Icke from having magical experiences. David Icke has also pushed and mentioned plenty of times about a lady who had a stroke. He goes on about people who have had strokes and have had near death experiences, and having these blissful experiences when they have that. To me, that is exactly what magic is, an NDE, something changing with your heart and your brain. So is David Icke actually just a magician who's had experiences, who's now painting reptilians in a sellable way to people? And is this lady doing the same thing? Is she, had an experience and she knows who she is now? That's something a magician would say. I know who I am. I know my will. She's had a magical experience, probably gets the idea, the whole reasoning behind reptiles and fire and all that stuff in occultism. And now she's just selling something to make money or grow a following.
She was a
Like,
kind
I
of a
really do think a
genius.
lot of reptilians is a deep occulted understanding, and people paint it in a sellable way.
She was kind of like Marshall Applewhite in a sense too, because she had, like Mike said, she had the warriors, and they call them the Orgon warriors, and she would make these, little acrylic hockey puck looking things or different shapes that to gain access to have that direct line with God for her, because she's the direct line to secure your spot in saving your soul, essentially, is to buy one of these or become part of her following. So it's kind of like the Marshall Applewhite thing, like, come have the applesauce and throw on these Nikes,
Wow, that's fucked up. Isn't Orgon like also supposed to like diffuse EMF and like 5G and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had asked Sherry, it did a lot of different things.
Ah.
It could cure cancer. It could cure any ailment that you had. It could destroy alien bases. So
Maybe that's what 5G is.
Yeah.
Bases.
As Dave had mentioned, Orgon Warriors. So she would sell Orgon on her website for ridiculous amounts of money, but she would also show people how to make it. And she would sometimes send a bunch of Orgon to people. She would make these pucks just because they're like the easiest way to make them. I know
Pancakes of light she was selling.
Yeah, pancakes of light. I know that that Helen has mentioned pyramids. Those exist also. People make those a lot with copper wiring.
Yes, I was going to say that. Those are a big seller.
I had one before.
All over Etsy. It's crazy.
Still now, yeah. But she would send them to her Orgon warriors, and she would send them on Orgon missions. So she would essentially tell them, go to this specific place and just disperse Orgon. And people would drive down the road and just throw pucks of Orgon out the window.
I
think I've heard her actually on her show say that.
Yeah,
I've gone back and checked out some of his stuff.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And if you look, you can find videos of former followers of Sherry Shriner, either on YouTube or throughout the internet. Even her websites are still up if you're interested. You can find videos of people that went on Orgon missions and see what they did. And, it's kind of wild. They would have like big boxes of pucks and just go out and start throwing them. Wild stuff.
Slap shotting into people's car windows and stuff like that. Well, it's really weird because she had a ton of followers, obviously, and one of her followers actually committed suicide, which is one of the weird things. There's been a couple deaths associated with her cult, and while she not directly is the one that's really responsible for it, there's a girl named
well, you don't have a good cult unless people die too.
Yeah, I guess, right. Ask the Davidians, they'll tell you. Or Heaven's Gate. There's
or the Hush Hush Society.
We're on our way.
Shit.
Stop.
We're sending everybody Rice Krispie treats. Just eat them all at the same time on the same day.
Don't smell them.
Right before we go live.
As we're going live, everybody
just watch the number start dropping off.
No.
Or Hush wafers.
Stop.
We got to make a real good pamphlet.
Yeah. It's the only way to become
you need a
truly
pamphlet.
legendary.
You're legit if you have a pamphlet.
Get
Trifold,
people to believe. get people to
good.
believe that these sunglasses we send them, they'll be able to have visions through them or something like that.
Like a they live experience.
Yeah.
I'll hit up.
Perfect.
Yeah. I'll hit up Staples.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dave, and then we'll let you go. But I was even thinking, it's funny you guys mentioned these Orgon things, and I even remember one time I entertained putting on Simon Parks for a little bit, and I noticed he had like a little Argon pyramid with the copper thing wrapped around it next to him, and the guy's like talking about like banging aliens. I'm like, of course.
Well,
Listen,
interesting you said that, because this girl Kelly, I think her last name is Pingilly. She actually was having night terrors about being raped and kidnapped by reptilian aliens, and they were raping her astral body, and it was supposed to be happening for like a little over a year, and she was kidnapped by super soldiers, like human super soldiers. But it's very, very interesting. I'm just going through that. She was Sherry actually told her that she was a part of a group called the Elect, and that was 144,000 angels on planet Earth that were residing here, and that were selected, and they were the firstborn of heaven. So there was a lot of stuff that this lady, I don't know if she had the night terrors before and then it clicked, or if she started listening to Sherry's stuff and then they manifested into these types of dreams where she was having her astral body ravaged.
Wow. That's wild. I wanted to ask you guys, sorry, before you go on, was she ever like talking about Lilith by chance? If you know?
I don't know.
As like one of the 14 like Yahweh's children or whatever.
no.
I don't know if we got into the other names other than Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I only asked because of that name that you said she called herself Queen Shaza whatever. There's a Turkish like serpent goddess called Shamaran, and she's supposed to be like Lilith's sister. So I just found like the Shah thing like odd. I can look it up after.
Could be.
But Frank, this makes me wonder if she read the Urantia book prior too.
Oh,
Sounds very
could've.
Urantia-esque. It really does.
It's wild how many parallels can be drawn with this subject. Everything from the Urantia book to astral projection to the Watiko consciousness. There's a lot to be drawn out of this.
It's all coming
You know
from
what's
the
crazy
same
is that
place.
I've probably come across crazier Urantia stuff since we finished recording.
Have to
I
have
was
a
like,
part
damn,
two.
I wish we knew this prior.
Teresa, to answer your question, the only other name, obviously other than Jesus and Lucifer and herself, is her protege or her successor, because she does have a successor. Orgon warriors still exist. They are, and scary thing is, for a while they were online in forums and they were talking about getting a physical compound. And this is where it becomes wild, because there are still tens of thousands of Sherry Shriner followers. And like I said, they were talking about getting a physical compound. And then all of a sudden one day, they just all went quiet. They all went silent. They all signed offline essentially forever. But before they went, there was kind of this split of the camp, where a lot of the followers still followed and thought that Sherry was messenger of the highest God. She was the one, the end all be all. And then on the other end of it, there is the other half of the group that follows their new leader, Queen, what the hell is her name? Rachel or Sharael. She's got a weird name too. And we don't know her actual name. It's never been mentioned. It's never been talked about.
Yeah.
But they say that she is one of the sisters. So she's kind of picked up the Sherry Shriner mantle, but on a very less public platform. So they're very quiet about what they're doing now, and it is very scary that we don't know what Orgon warriors are doing nowadays.
Interesting. Thank
They're
you.
making the live, laugh, love signs for Family Dollar.
Just in the middle of the woods in the Midwest.
Oh fuck. That was good.
What's her name? Rashael.
Rothschild.
Ra
A teenage
Shy.
Ray,
woman.
Ray,
Oh,
Ray,
okay.
was it Ray
R
Shile?
RAHSHYELLE.
Rothschild.
Wow.
And it actually, it rifted the camp up. Yeah, they were like, she was like, well, I'm the one. Because Sherry Shriner died in 2018. So she is, do you think all her followers heaven's gated with her? When did they all go offline? Was it 2018?
It was a couple years after her death. I mean,
Okay.
Rachel had taken over by then. There was the split in the camp. They did talk about physically getting together. And an interesting part about this that we hadn't mentioned is that nobody actually met Sherry. Nobody ever physically met her.
Wow.
There was no, I take that back. There was one person that physically met her, Kelly Pengilly, who is the one that committed suicide. She physically met Sherry, but she is the only person.
Did the other couple, I think there was a guy named Steven and
Yeah,
his
did
wife
he meet
Barbara,
her?
did they meet her as well? Because I know that there was a
No.
rift between Barb and Sherry didn't like each other. Maybe it was just because they were sliding in each other's DMs for a while. So,
yeah, the other big part of this, and David said, you don't have a good cult until somebody dies. Man named Stephen Mineo and his girlfriend Barbara Rogers. And to make a long story short, Barbara Rogers killed Stephen Mineo. They were both part of the cult. And Stephen Mineo, for months upon months, would talk to Sherry Shriner online in Facebook groups or Facebook chats or DMs for hours on end. Literally, like they would all get together on these group forums and they would talk back and forth. But everybody would sign off, and Steve and Sherry would just talk all night, and then people would like sign back in at 7 o'clock in the morning or something and see that they were still chatting. So it was a very, very deep connection. And then Steven started dating Barbara Rogers, and Sherry kind of pulled like this little thing where she told all her followers on the radio show and online that Barbara Rogers was a reptilian. And everybody believed it.
jealous much?
Whoa. Wasn't it because I was just researching quick because Barbara posted something about eating meat or eating carnivore?
Yeah.
And Cherry's like,
because-
you're a reptilian, you eat flesh or something.
Yep. Yeah, she claimed to have seen Barbara do a reptilian facial shift, some weird thing. And then later, after she capitalized Stephen Mineo's murder on her radio show, she had mentioned that Stephen was killed by Barbara because Barbara caught him seeing her in her true reptilian form. And that's why she killed him.
It's worth noting that they were both sloshed when this happened.
Oh, that is wow.
Were they both members? They were both.
They were.
Barbara was still a member. Yeah, she wasn't
Yeah.
just like the girlfriend that was on the side that was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
No. And Barbara would be eventually kicked out. And then after Sherry said stuff about Barbara, Steve would leave, and he kind of did his own YouTube thing. Excuse me, his own YouTube thing. He would
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. I
covered
thought I
kind of
remember
the same thing.
people
Conspiracies.
that they left, or I think there was people that were in it or left that had their own YouTube channels as well, right?
Yeah, that was Stephen Mineo.
Mm.
He kind of after the accusations from Sherry about Barbara, he left the Orgon Warriors and he started doing his own YouTube thing. I mean, he was always kind of doing it, but he ramped it up more once that whole thing had happened, and he was kind of on this mission of shit talking Sherry and saying like she's not who she says she is, and kind of downplaying everything that was going on and really trying to get people to look at her as for who she really was, essentially a glorified salesperson.
What kind of following did he get with that going on? Did you notice?
Is
Like,
his YouTube still up?
Probably taken down by now.
Yeah,
Probably taken
YouTube.
down. Probably
Crazy.
after the murder, it was probably taken down. So, but that whole murder, that in itself is a whole weird true crimey type of thing. The circumstances behind the murder, her interrogation post murder, just everything is just very, very weird.
do you think if none of these murders happened, or I guess like if nothing got stopped and she was still alive, do you think like this could have actually turned into a physical cult?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because there was things that made me think like it could have, or might have been thought of going in that direction already.
If anybody is interested more in this, I believe that there is a documentary called The Devil You Know, which they did an episode on this as well.
Yeah. Vice did, I think, like an 8-part series on it.
Yeah.
So they went pretty in depth, but most of it is about the Stephen Mineo murder. Less focus on Sherry herself, but a lot about the murder. But as far as it being a physical cult, like actual physicality to it, it was definitely moving down that road. I think, and this is just a guess, really. I think that Sherry kind of knew that she was dying because she died of heart failure. So I think she kind of knew that she was dying. And keep in mind, up until the very, very end of her life, essentially like weeks before she died, nobody knew what she looked like. She never posted videos or photos of herself online. Nobody knew what Sherry looked like, except for Kelly Pingilly, who killed herself. And then weeks before she died, she posted a random picture of her fishing. She was like,
Horrible
yeah, this is
picture.
me. This is me. This is what I look like.
Face reveal.
And then all of a sudden, she was gone.
Yeah. It was like 50 by 50 pixels too. It was a terrible picture.
Yeah.
That's
So
weird.
that's why if you try to look up pictures of her, there's pretty much 2 pictures that you'll get. One of her from way, way back when she was probably a teenager, early 20s.
Yeah, probably.
And then the one of her fishing. If you can find that. It took me a while to find that one.
Oh, okay. That's why, like, because I did come across pictures of her. I think, like you said, it was only a few, and I was like, that voice goes with that face.
There's a
But if
few
it was such
that,
an older pic, I guess that makes sense.
there's a few that are actually Barbara Rogers, I believe, too, that show
Oh,
up in the Google search. So you can confuse the two.
Yeah, for some odd reason,
maybe I
Barbara
was doing
Rogers'
that.
picture pops up for Sherry Schreiner.
She got killer hair though in the younger one. She got the big poof going on up top.
It's like
So
a member of the
80s.
Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Was there anything ever mentioned about like financials with this?
We tried.
I was just wondering, like, if there was anything, like, if she was making money or not.
She
was
definitely
definitely making
was
money. Yeah.
off of the Orgon for sure. I don't think it's solidified how much exactly, but given the amount of followers she had and the amount of people that were going on these Orgon missions that were procured through her selling them the product, yeah, she made a shitload of money.
Yeah. On top of it all, she was taking donations. She was essentially asking for donations nonstop. It was how she ended literally every show. She would talk about how poor she was, and she was doing this for free, and she had no sponsorships, and she was making no money, and this is what she did with her life. And to continue to do that, she needed, donations, the goodwill of people listening to her.
There's a couple of conflicting reports too, because I'm looking at the net worth of her, and the website that I'm looking at, it's a picture of her, and it's not her, and it says she died in 2021. But all the other facts are real, but the picture is definitely not her, unless the pictures she put up were fake and not actually her. But the mugshot of the person that I'm looking at right now does not look like it. But it says on this website that her net worth as of 2022 is $2 million.
Definitely not her.
Yeah, no. I'll send you the link.
I'm wondering, did she have like a known company name?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was just wondering, like, if she actually had like a legit company, if it was registered as religious, and then you could find out how much it was pulling in. You know, for
Yeah, I don't.
tax reasons.
She never. I don't think anything with her financials was ever kind of found out. And she had so many different websites. I think at one time she had like between 10 and 12 different websites, all with selling Orgon or taking donations or blog posts that she would make. So she had a lot of different avenues to spread her message. I guess it's kind of like, it's like the thought of Starbucks. Why do you see so many Starbucks? It's because they're on every corner. So she was the same way. Why do you see so much of Sherry Shriner? Because she had so many websites and internet personas and shows and just different ways to find her. I think that was a big part of her spread also, is that she just knew how to get herself out there in many different ways.
You're just probably ordering that shit from Wish and then just resending it out.
Okay, so the person on that website that they're showing is Barbara Rogers, but it says her net worth was about $2 million, which would make, I mean, if she had 6,000 followers just on the internet, all those 6,000 followers bought however much those Orgon pucks were, could have been 100, could have been $200. She probably ranked in serious money. And this is before YouTube got big with ad revenue too. But then again, if she died in 2018, there was definitely a solid decade where she could have been making money via YouTube.
It actually kind of makes you wonder if she really died.
I was actually thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it.
I mean,
hey, she could fake her own death.
Maybe that was the whole part of the plan, is just to gather this huge gathering of followers, of people, and then take it offline, make an actual physical cult. Yeah, let's buy this piece of land. All right, you guys gave me all this money. I bought, 200 acres out in the middle of nowhere. You guys come join me. I'll go under this new name. I'll fake my death.
I even thought the fishing pics that you mentioned, I was like, that could even be interesting.
They were terrible pictures too. Like, you can't tell who the person really is. They're all blurry. It's like from a pixel camera from back in the early 2000s, where everything was 360 by 360. And yeah, they're really bad. But yeah, I mean, if you're in your, when she died, she was allegedly in her 40s or 50s or something like that. I think her 50s.
50s.
Yeah, if you can amass wealth like that and then disappear, what a way to do it. Everybody went online because she shut it down. She might not even have taken them with her. She might have just been like, 2 million? I can live off this for the next 20 something years. I'm out. Move to Barbados or something like that. You find her in France.
And that brings up something for us. Make sure you hit up our Patreon.
Yeah,
we're very close to cashing out.
We need pairs of Nike Decades to really knock this one out of the park.
Really set this one
They're
off.
so expensive.
Nike Decades.
We got to get them. We're gonna get our own.
Well, those are the Heaven Gate sneakers for people.
Yeah. I want a pair so bad just to put it in a glass case,
they're
just
expensive.
one shoe. Yeah.
If you guys
like
haven't seen them, they're
$600.
pretty hot on the block too. Those are sneakerheads would love them.
I bought a Heaven's Gate away team patch. I'm waiting for it to come in the mail. I can't wait.
We have a new Heaven's Gate merchandise design that we're going to be releasing.
Nice.
Fucking twisted.
Yeah,
It's twisted.
So, a question about Sherry to you guys, whatever your opinions are. What do you think? Like her whole deal was like. Do you think like she just was like? You think she truly believed what she was saying? Do you think she was, just trying to make a quick scam? Do you think that she was like a psyop in itself?
I'm torn on the scam aspect of it, because I feel like it's an easy explanation, and sometimes that's the case. Sometimes the easiest explanation is the truth. But that by no means was a quick scam, and that's definitely putting all of your eggs in one very loose basket if you're banking on all of your followers getting you to retirement in 15 years. That's risky. That could have started it. But something that struck me as interesting is earlier when you said, NY, that there's this clicking moment, something happens with the brain or the heart. And I drew similarities from that to alleged demonic possessions. So, like with the story of Annalise McKell, the write-off was frontal lobe epilepsy, and a lot of doctors and neurologists have said something similar about demonic possessions or being contacted or receiving messages from astral beings or higher entities that something's wrong with these people's brains. She could have suffered some sort of stroke, some sort of brain trauma, some sort of heart trauma. She obviously had heart problems. She died of a heart attack. So something could have happened along the way, even if it was 20 years prior, to where she now had this deficiency in her brain, some sort of miswiring to where she truly believed she was receiving messages from some sort of higher entity. And because she believed in it so heavily and so strongly, she was able to convince others that that was reality. And she just ran with it.
Yeah, that's why I do ask if why I even threw out the option of believe that she was telling the truth, is because I do think, and this is why I say that sometimes I don't think it's good for everybody to understand magic, or not for it to just be handed to everybody at once, is because if you do have that experience and you're like unknowing of a lot of things, I feel like you can misinterpret what just happened as well.
Well, you can screw up, right?
Yeah,
You
but you could totally think that you're, still being, a nice person. You really believe the experience you had, and you're wholeheartedly trying to do something right.
Hmm.
But you could just be totally off base.
Do you think she might have had some type of interest in magic beforehand? That's why she was doing the stuff with the
I don't
energies and
know.
the organ. Maybe she actually
I
brought
mean,
it
there's a
upon
lot of
herself, the thought process.
there's people who can have like strokes, like a heart attacks, like NDEs, and all of a sudden start becoming spiritual after that. So who
Well,
knows?
the Orgon thing she picked up from somebody else.
Okay,
I'm sure.
She leached that idea from a man named Donald Croft, and
monetization.
he led a group called the Etheric Warriors. And the Etheric Warriors were kind of like Orgon Warriors. They were very much into the Orgon and the energy of it, but Donald Croft and his group would just give people Orgon. They were kind of like the Jehovah's Witnesses of New Age. They would just go and see people on the street and be like, "Here, protect yourself," and just give people Orgon pucks. So, and then she tried to join forces with Donald Croft because he had a massive following in
Oh,
himself.
I think I might have heard about it.
Yeah, so she tried to join forces with him, and he was like, "No, you're a little batshit," like So, um, so he was off put by her, but she took the idea of Orgon from him, and that's when she started to like put that into her own show and her own following.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was almost like a made me think of like a soap opera, like sideshow thing. That situation.
Yeah,
I heard
yeah,
that covered. It's
The
just
stuff
funny
that
how, like, when you hear like some of the stories and just like the relationships and
mm,
things that she had in her life, they just all seem like a shit show too.
the
yeah.
stuff that she
Well,
talks about is what everybody's talking about right now. I think that's why Sherry Shriner is probably going to become more popular in the next couple of years with the talking points. And I've had people, like I said earlier, I've had people that had no idea who David Icke was. They didn't know that we talked to him 2 years ago, and they were like, "Have you ever heard of this guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, he's a sports broadcaster." And they're like, "No, no." And I'm like, "Well, he was." But,
yeah,
it's,
we had a 2-hour conversation with him.
yeah, it's, I don't know. It's really big with what's going on right now with the media and everybody's, it's all these conspiracies kind of come together at a certain point. And when people are talking about everybody's consciousness being lower, and I know a lot of people have been talking about it for a couple years now, that we're right at this tipping point of this awakening or not, but it looks like we're teetering. Looks like we're getting
Wilcox has been saying that for 10 years.
Yeah. And who knows, but a lot of people, especially in the community of conspiracy and people that are creating content along that same topic, are talking about, one, reptilians, and two, lots of spiritual and lots of biblical prophecy at the same time. And that's directly what she was talking about 20 years ago. So it's such an interesting topic, because while she might have been batshit crazy or had something happen to her physically, she's talking about stuff that's in the news. I mean, Tucker Carlson the other day, I don't watch Fox News, but he's like, let's hear from our reptilian overlords. And I was
I've heard him say that. And I was like, whoa.
Because I'm like, there's that one guy that's sitting there. It's like, holy shit, I knew it. And screaming at his TV. It's that DiCaprio meme. Like, oh, I knew it. And DiCaprio's a lizard too. See?
Do you remember a few years ago when Putin made a remark about the Queen being very reptilian-like?
Yeah, we covered that on one of our Patreon
I remember
episodes.
people were like, "Oh, see, she's a reptile." Putin said it.
Well, a lot of Russian battle flags from the 19th century have a knight stabbing a lizard or a dragon-looking being on a horse with a giant spear. So, interesting. Actually, a lot of battle flags in a lot of cultures have people stabbing.
See, that's interesting, because then maybe that's why they're fighting Ukraine, because it's very beast-like symbology.
Zelensky's a reptilian.
For sure.
First time.
Zelensky is George Soros' son.
Oh, God. Just like Fauci is Mother Teresa's son.
What?
Yeah. You never heard that one? Oh, yeah.
No.
See, now this is interesting to think about, too. Technically, I think the Nazis is all beast symbolism. And the Azov is, Nazis. Beast symbolism, I think, going on over there. At least occult symbolism. And Russia was the reason that World War II, basically the Germans lost. And now Russia's might be the reason for stopping the other beast symbolism this time. It's really weird now.
Well, I heard a great breakdown of it, and I'm not supporting either country and whatever the fuck is going on.
Oh, I have, yeah.
But like the whole, like they wanted Ukraine to join NATO. And way back during the Warsaw Pact, when Gorbachev was still in Russia, leading Russia, they had this whole big pact where they said, okay, we'll get rid of the Warsaw Pact if you promise that you won't admit any other members into NATO. And essentially NATO was like, yeah, okay. And they signed a piece of paper. And then since then, they've admitted like 17 new countries. And Ukraine wants to become a NATO partner, and Putin was like, no, fuck that. You guys signed a piece of paper. You signed a contract saying that you weren't going to take them and you weren't going to admit them. And now you're going back on that. So I don't know,
not to get off on a tangent on it, but I mean, they're really a NATO country now, just not on paper, for sending them billions of dollars in funding. And then I think it was just yesterday, Zelensky, if this is even real, it's coming from news channels, so who the fuck knows? But Zelensky said that if all the Americans that don't support us getting funding, get ready for your leaders to go away.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on in this?
We're terrible Americans.
Yeah.
What a joke.
Americans. So yeah, it's and so are we implying that the Ukrainian leaders are lizards? Is that what we're implying?
I guess so. Sherry Schreiner was right.
Pretty sure they all are.
Yeah, they're all lizards putting on some big show for us to consume and get all worked
joke
up
about it. But do you really think that we have morphing lizard people on TV?
No, again, like I say,
No.
I think it really has to do with just jumping the abyss. I think it's people who practice magic. That's it.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, because like all these, I mean, when you start thinking of reptiles or green animals that are like all associated with water, I mean, you got fucking the snakes and the caduceus. You know, you got a snake in the tree. I mean, it's a very deep thing. I don't
Yeah.
think it's as easy as that. My opinion.
You think
Snakes
that
and
that's
reptilians throughout history and throughout lore. That's huge. It's everywhere.
yeah.
And
You
it's
got
worldwide.
frogs sitting on lily pads. I mean, the lily flower could be Isis. So to me, like this all makes sense in symbolism. You know, you got a frog head on top of Jabulon. I mean, what the fuck?
So I guess we could conclude that thinking that they're upright, actual
That's just me.
extraterrestrial
That's just me.
beings. Well, I guess in a theory could be a lazy way of thinking about the whole concept.
They're all
I guess.
demons.
I mean,
Imagine that they all morph out and they're like, "Oh, we're here, get it? You're all wrong."
Well, maybe it's more of like a bloodline thing,
Could
you
be.
know, because like there's the whole tribe of Dan. You guys aren't familiar with tribe of Dan? No.
No.
Oh,
No.
so like
very,
biblically,
a little bit.
like Dan is going to be. I'm probably explaining this so poorly, but like the tribe, one of the original 12 tribes of Israel, who will come and like judge the other ones, and so they're like our leaders. Like a lot of like royalty, politicians can be traced back to like the same bloodline, but maybe is Dan like the seed of Cain, which would be like the seed of the devil. So are they, is that like the adversary that we're all up against, and they're the ones that like rule our realm?
Listen, if I'm being judged by a guy named Dan, fuck me, man. Something went wrong in life.
Well, some people say Dan stands for do anything now.
Uh,
It's like a little bit of a YOLO.
YOLO.
I've got FOMO. I got to do this.
No, but
can't-
seriously, if you look at like the symbolism behind Dan, it makes sense with a lot of like the royal flags or like these wartime flags. It's always like very serpent-esque.
Hmm.
Very serpent. And there's a verse in the Bible, I believe, where Dan will bite the heel and the other tribes fall back. I don't have to look it up for you. Sorry. Explaining it so poorly. But Dan is responsible for a lot of things. So sometimes when I see stuff
Damn it,
happening
Daniel.
on the world stage, damn it, Daniel. I'm just like, man, it's just Tribe of Dan doing Tribe of Dan stuff. Just what they're supposed to be doing.
It's interesting because just two flags you can think of. The "Don't Tread on Me" flag, obviously, is a chopped up snake, and then the Mexican flag currently has a snake in the clutches of an eagle,
Right.
and that goes far back. But it's interesting you said the 12 tribes. I heard the other day, I forgot what podcast it was on, but they were talking about the 12. There was that the United States is actually part of the 12 outcasted tribes that dispersed all over the world.
Well, I think most people could probably trace their lineage to one of the tribes. Sorry, my dog keeps scratching himself.
Right, I had a train.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can trace their lineage to one of the tribes.
Genghis Khan did everyone.
But yeah,
Let's
it just
talk
goes to the
about
whole
Genghis Khan.
whole theory of like we're Cain and Abel from two different bloodlines, and there's just this eternal war of bloodlines happening. God's blood, Adam's bloodline, and the devil's bloodline.
It would make sense with like the 13 families.
Indeed. Yes, it does actually make a lot of sense. We'll have to do one whole episode just on that, and I can explain it properly. But yeah.
You know what symbol I always liked? It was very interesting. Is I don't know if you know it. It's called the seal of Cagliostro.
No.
Oh, what's that?
So it was kind of an offsect of Mason, like a Mason secret club, and it is an S symbol of a snake, and in the snake's mouth is an apple, and then through the snake, kind of like a sideways money sign, through the snake is an arrow. And that's the symbol of like this offsect of Masons.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I
Because
like
the apple is like knowledge.
Yeah.
You know, the snake in the garden of Eden taking the apple, and then the arrow. I don't know. I'm not well versed in symbolism like you guys are, but it's an interesting one to me.
Oh,
That
you
is
mentioned the
interesting.
knowledge thing. A lot of people correlate the apple with an actual mushroom being that with the spirit molecule or whatever it is.
Well, that's like early tapestries or early art of Adam and Eve, where they're in the Garden of Eden, but the Garden of Eden is a massive mushroom.
Well, even
Really?
Yeah.
the apple, if you cut it in half, does look like the torrid field as well too. If you really want to take it that deep.
Going
So
deep.
I just found the Bible verse about Dan that I was talking about. It says Genesis chapter 49, verse 17. Dan will be a snake by the roadside, a viper along the path that bites the horse's heels so that its rider tumbles backward. Fuck you, Dan.
Damn it, Daniel. So is that our translation of it, the name Dan, or is Dan actually show up?
It's
Dan is like a group of
Damn,
people.
weird.
Damn,
Why?
Daniel.
Yeah, I don't know who's the first Dan. We'd have to ask a biblical scholar about that or do
Just
some research, but
Just think
yeah.
about it this way. Armageddon is happening. Fire, brimstone everywhere. Demons rising up from the ground. Everybody's running scared. Ah! And then all of a sudden, just on a fucking mountain high, a man walks out wearing khakis and a flannel and glasses. And he says, "I am Dan."
Terrible.
Can't
Yeah,
wait.
the flannels.
Why is he
Yeah,
wearing
like
khakis?
boat shoes on.
Yeah, boat shoes.
So interestingly enough, the name Dan is a Hebrew name that is God is my judge.
He was sent by God. God damn it, Dan.
And doesn't God appoint all the rulers of the world? No one becomes a ruler without his approval, either direct or passive.
Can't get through Dan without the
Fucking Dan.
approval.
We got Stein Forks chiming in. He has his own show. He's Norse pagan. He said the old gods of Ireland are I'm going to screw this up. Tuath de Danin?
The
Something like that.
Danes. Hello. There you go.
I think Dave went on to a Stein's show.
What?
Or
Stein
he
Forks?
attempted to. Yeah. The pagan show, Dave, way back when.
I don't remember.
He had some issues getting
All
into it. Yeah.
Maybe you can make that happen again.
There was quite a bit of people in there.
Yeah.
I think it was a lot. Yeah, I had some horrible connectivity issues and wasn't able to do anything but see faces for 5 seconds and then got dropped.
But
Sorry,
Stein
man.
is also saying that can be translated to the tribe of Dan as well.
Ah.
Well, and through symbology, it seems that, like, if we follow the serpent symbols, tribe of Dan morphed into like the Sumerians, the Phoenicians, the Babylonians, the Greeks, the Romans, all the same people all the time.
Politicians.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why they say the United States is the new Roman Empire.
Same. Exactly. Same entities. It's always like a move, counter move, counter move.
I hope
That's
the
how I
next
say it.
president is named Dan.
That would be awesome. And we're just like, yeah,
There he is.
that's the
Dan
guy.
Malloy
Imagine
for-
imagine if the Antichrist is named Dan.
I am dead, and you're like, oh, damn it!
Fuck this guy.
How fucking underwhelming.
All these Satanists are so pissed off. They're like, I thought it was this person. I thought
It was
it
gonna
was this
be
person.
Damien or
Yeah, damn it was Dan.
yeah.
It wasn't Azazel.
There we
Oh,
go.
man.
But yeah, it's like a question of, was it there's the original Canaanites, like the whole thing. It's a whole web.
Well, that brings on the question that Sherry Shriner would say, or what she would, say is going to happen is that everybody's coming back. And with this Chinese weather balloon shit, everybody's talking about now, like, oh, Project Bluebeam, here we go. The second coming of Christ, it's coming. And it's a lot of people don't know about Bluebeam. And it makes me wonder if, like you said earlier, is this a psyop? Could they have caught her, and been like, this is going to be the first one we're going to catch. That's going to throw all these people for a loop. It's kind of like what we say in certain aspects with other conspiracies too. We're like, man, this has to be a distraction psyop for people to just be like, what, and look this way. But I mean, we'll see. Maybe Sherry was right. Maybe in the couple coming months, people start to float away.
Are we concluding that Sherry Shriner wasn't so crazy? Is that what we're concluding?
Quite
I think
possibly.
she was a really good business person. I think she
Yeah.
made good money, and she knew what she was doing with a journalism degree and a degree in political science, I think. And she knew how to talk to people. So I think with the outlets that she had, she was extremely powerful. I mean, it's a lot of like some of these big podcasters that are out, like even like when Howard Stern was still doing his thing, huge. If you listen to something that Howard Stern said, you might believe everything that's coming out of his mouth. Joe Rogan's another one. People listen to Alex Jones and InfoWars. These people have massive platforms. So the second something said, millions of people now not even in the thousands, where people are like, have you ever heard of YouTube? And they're like, no. And it's just the guy from doing the San Diego Zoo video, the creator.
Well, it's even
it.
another thing you have to think about too. I mean, I guess we're even doing this ourselves, but I just highly doubt the people listening to this episode will start buying into her stuff. But I mean, even just covering her, regardless if people come across it, they're like, "Oh, this chick was crazy." They weren't going to be entertained by her anyway. But in a sense, you could come across some people who then do listen to this and be like, "Oh, like Teresa was saying, maybe she's not so crazy." You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that, like, she's not here anymore, but even her idea and beliefs are still getting, put back out there for people to evaluate it for themselves to like or not.
They're very popular right now too. So everybody, you heard it first. All of us in this round table, we're gonna monetize it and make Orgon pucks
Fuck
with
yeah.
all our logos on it. You pick the logo, we'll send it to you. It'd be just like a game puck in an NHL game. You pick the show.
Cloud
It's coming.
busting.
$500 a piece. No low ballers.
It'd be like NFTs, but a physical version.
Oh my god. We'll just make
resin
Orgon NFTs and sell them in the metaverse. We don't even need to physically make them. Perfect.
Mike's fiance
Oh.
does resin stuff. Mike, what are we doing? Get her on it.
Listen, we are slowly building a cult. I mean, a show following. People that are
A congregation.
a congregation. There we go.
You should make hush hush Orgon pucks just for
We
shits and
want to.
giggles. Just do it, man.
Just with our faces.
And just cricket cut vinyl. Hush, I'll do it for you. I'll cricket it. Perfect.
We
I
gotta
love
send
it.
them Kool-Aid to drink. Something to
Yes.
drink.
Little violet Kool-Aid.
Tang. Tang.
Oh man, has anyone seen the new Ant-Man movie? I saw it on
No,
the weekend.
yet.
There's a character who creates a liquid of himself, and they all drink it. And I was like, what is going on? Adrenochrome in
Blood
the
of
first
Christ.
10 minutes of Ant-Man. And
See,
so
that's-
it's a liquid that then they can all understand each other. All the alien languages, they can all vibe together and they can understand. It doesn't sound like nonsense anymore. But it looks like pink, red liquid. Of course. Why couldn't it be purple? No.
It's in your
that
face.
was a movie that came out on the 17th too, wasn't it?
217.
And I was mentioning that to you earlier about the whole date with 217 because, like, I posted something today or last night. Who was that guy? You knew who he was. Can you explain who the guy is from Schitt's Creek? Teresa.
Oh, Dan Levy.
Okay, Dan Levy. He did a TikTok.
Yeah.
Yeah, and commenting on something to do with this whole weather balloon thing, and it was an article from February 17th, which is 217, and he starts off saying like, "Oh, it's been 17 years and 2 posts since I've done TikTok."
So weird.
And I'm like, "Well, that's 17 and 2 again." 17 with QAnon was a big supposed number. This movie Ant-Man came out on 217.
Is this the
I know
17th
somebody who
Marvel
dropped
movie?
an occult book on 217. It's like, what the fuck? Something's up with this 217.
Hmm.
A month
Can
later,
we-
we have St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Can we see if this was the 17th installment of the MCU?
Oh, I don't know.
I haven't looked.
And
Also,
furthermore, the subject matter of
seven-
the movie itself, you're getting
Quantum
into
mania.
the
everything
universes within
quantum,
our universe, weird shit.
multiverse, everything. Yeah. And also, 17 times 2 is 34. Isn't 34 like apotheosis? You become a god unto yourself, and they fight Kang, who thinks he's a god, and then he gets destroyed by his own mind. Isn't that just lovely?
It's the lizards. They're making you drink the blood of children.
Yeah.
Liberals want you to believe.
Is there anything else you guys would have left on Sherry Shriner before we wrap this up?
No, that's pretty much it.
I think we pretty much covered all the bases.
Did I get all of yours opinions about Mike? Did I get yours? I don't know if you were here or not.
If
If it was like you think it was like a psyop, do you think she was trying to just be authentic and didn't understand experiences that she had herself, or do you think she was just like a money grab?
you know, I think that it was kind of half and half. I think part of the things that she was spewing, she believed in. But on the other end of it, I think that she was also doing it because it was a way to make a living. When she first started, it was a pastime, it was a hobby. And as it ramped up and she got more listeners and she got more followers and she made a name for herself, especially within internet radio, she took it more to the business side. And that's when you start to see her try to gain followers from other shows and gain followers from other groups. And then she starts introducing the Orgon, and the widespread of her websites. It was very much a business to her. But I think certain things she believed in, I don't know if she necessarily truly believed that she was a daughter of Christ or a daughter of Yahweh, as she referred to him, or if it was just part of the script, really. It's like if think about it this way: if you were to take the power of the internet today and come up with a script of all these amazing, fantastical things that you could possibly say to make people believe that you are this entity, you are this heavenly being, why wouldn't you? Especially if it was going to make you money.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of people out there that would do that today and do that today. So I think she took advantage of the inception of the internet, the birth of people really like starting to get their information on the internet and information online, and this widespread community that she, that was kind of spidering out from where she was in Ohio. And it just grew and grew and grew, and that was her business. I realistically think that's really what it all was.
I think it's a natural progression that happens to a lot of people where they will believe something, they put it out there with the content that they put out, and then they realize, oh, I got some money's coming in, and then you can kind of capitalize on monetization at some point. You see it with you see it with shows. They're, oh, we're going to start a podcast. We're hobby. We're going to talk about things we're interested in, and then boom, 15 ads. And they're all making money through ad revenue. And
I was going to say that before, and well, I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't want to make it sound like I was just trying to like hammer down a point that I've covered or opinionated myself. But I do think that is the dangers of making something a kind of a company instead of a hobby. Because once you start to monetize it to that extent, you are no longer in control of your show.
No.
The people that are listening to it are, regardless if you even agree with what they're believing or not. So you're going to put out whatever's going to keep paying the bills. So like when you hear people going on about hating their job and their shows monetize the fuck up, just better believe that they're just going to put out what the listeners want.
Yeah, I
unless of course you were that way from the inception. Yeah. Like we are that way. We've always been that way. We have always done shows that our listeners want to hear. We've covered topics
Oh
that our
yeah.
listeners want to hear. So they do steer our show. We Dave was saying that we just covered
All right, but if your
football
listeners,
industry conspiracies last night, and that was suggested to us literally weeks ago. We made a change on the spot to our season just to accommodate people that listen to our show.
but like, let's say you had like within a few weeks, like 20 people hit you up wanting you to cover a topic that you thought was the silliest, dumbest bullshit. Would you still entertain it?
Depending.
Really? What if it was an opinion you wholeheartedly did not agree with?
We've done flat Earth.
Yeah, we've
But were you trying to promote it? That's what I'm getting at. Like promote that thinking.
Not promote their thinking. No, and we don't do that anyways.
No, but
we never try to push anybody's opinion, including our own. Our motto has always been like, we don't tell you what to think. We present the facts. We present the history of what we're saying and the beliefs behind what we're saying, but we don't necessarily believe in everything that we cover. It's just getting the information out there and letting people think for themselves.
Yeah, it's your
So
job to decide.
if it was, I think what it boils down to is not necessarily the pushing of someone's opinion. Mostly, it would boil down to, is this something that we're interested in covering? If somebody came to us and they said, "Oh, well, we want you to cover the conspiracy behind why all Amazon boxes are square," like, I'm not gonna fucking cover that. But if you came to us and you gave us some very interesting stuff to cover, we would wholeheartedly do it, especially if there was a lot of research behind it and there was a lot of actual conspiracy to it.
Yeah. Another one we've done is 27 Club. That was a listener recommendation that we didn't, I think we had mentioned it, talked about it, and said maybe we'll do this in the future. But somebody was really adamant about us doing it, and we did it. And it was a very interesting episode. And then this porn one that's coming out is, I never would have thought certain things about that topic that would have been like conspiratorial. And it's a heavy episode. It's going to be, I don't know if this comes out before it or after it, but if you can, check it out. It's definitely different. And like you said just a minute ago, it can be dangerous to promote some ideas to some folks at a high platform like Sherry Shriner did. Have you guys ever heard of Matthew Taylor Coleman, the guy in California that killed his kids because he thought they were reptilian?
Was that related to Q?
I think it was a little bit,
yeah. But what I mean by it being dangerous is that this guy believed one day in a dream or a vision while he was laying in bed, believed that his wife had serpent DNA and that his kids had it, brought them through San Diego into Mexico and killed them. And that's what he said when he got arrested too. He was like, yeah, well, they're aliens. I had to do it.
Well, see, aliens is a perfect example of what I'm trying to get at, I guess. And then we'll wrap it up here because I think we both got our opinions. If people all of a sudden started entertaining the idea that aliens, my listeners, that aliens are actually these little green men in UFOs, and that's what the fuck they want to hear me start covering now on, I'm not going to, because I don't believe they're little green men in UFOs. There are some shows that I've actually seen flip-flop like that because they're pulling in more money now because they got people who are on that whole alien invasion believing that aliens are going to come thing. So that's what I'm getting at. You can start selling your own morals and beliefs because of $1. That's just an example of how I'm saying you can start doing that because that's
without even
bringing in the money, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's just what I was getting at. I understand what you guys were saying as well, so I'm not actually arguing with you. I'm agreeing.
If you want to pay us, by all means. All means.
I'll even say that myself. Believe it or not, I had no idea that this would be a problem. But since I have gotten a new computer that I still haven't paid off yet, I'll add that in there also. I had no idea that going from 1080 to 4K and rendering videos on that was going to cost me another $50 a month in electricity.
What?
So yeah, well, think about it. You're literally sucking electricity out of your wall to create these things. You go from like a 720 video that's like 2.5 gigs to now a 20 gig video, which is interesting to think about the fact that it's costing me more electricity to make more of a visual. It's magic in itself, but it is. It's going to cost more. My video card is going to eat up electricity. So I guess if anybody wants to throw me donations, I'll take some too.
Makes sense. Newer
Since
video cards
literally
are
is
higher
actually
wattage.
costing me more money now to do the show. But again, the video is my choice. I don't have to do the video.
And why? All you got to do is start making Orgon.
Yep.
Right? Orgon cakes.
That's it.
Perfect.
Light cakes.
So that's we'll wrap it up there. So yeah, Teresa, co-host.
Yeah.
Would you like to plug your show again for the listeners, for the people that are still listening?
Sure. Well, this was a blast. I just had a great time.
Always is.
Yeah, no, you guys are hilarious. So yeah, my other show with you is called The Spiritual Gangsters. Please check it out. It is really cool. I swear to God. No, I'm kidding. It is. It's fun. It's a great
She
time.
swears to Dan.
So I swear to Dan. Fucking
We got to
Dan.
get a Dan on that show now.
Oh my God, yeah. I'll have to do a deep dive on that. Maybe you and I can do an episode on that another time on Tribe of Dan. But yeah, come check out the Spiritual Gangsters. Hang out with us. It's really good. Talks about personal transformation stories and other interesting stuff like pop culture even. So it's cool. Check it out. YouTube, major podcast platforms. And you can find me on Instagram at teresa.kisar.
Awesome.
I'm most active.
Thank you very much. And the link for that will be in the bottom. And I appreciate you jumping on and co-hosting the Occult Rejects. Oh, and Stein Forks is Danunaki Dan. I'm going to have to get him on. We got Anunnaki Dan in there. Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Great name.
Yeah.
He has risen.
How did I forget about Anunnaki? Because I know who that is. And I guess so there is an awkward silence until one of you decide to speak. Mike, do you want to? Oh, Mike's looking at the screen. Oh, you're back, Mike. Mike, do you want to plug this show again and whatever cult or new things coming out?
Yeah. Cult members.
And plug that roundtable thing we're doing too.
Yes.
I meant to have you plug that at the beginning.
Roundtable. We got together with a bunch of other podcasters. NY, Teresa are also a part of it. All three of us. We did 3 different topics: flat Earth, Book of Urantia, and celebrity sacrifices. And there's a bunch of other podcasters on it. We all kind of chatted in our own respective roundtables. Those are going to be coming out next month in March. I believe the dates.
The 7th.
Let me get you actual dates.
The 21st, something like that.
Was it the 7th? Yeah, the 7th, 14th, and 21st. And they will be available on everyone's feeds, everyone who's involved. It'll be on our feed. I think, it'll be on your feeds. And just check everybody out on there. We got some cool people. We all had a great talk. It was fun. So make sure to check those out. Follow everybody, listen to everybody's show because we're all out here trying, man.
It's 9 different podcasts, so that's if you only listen to one of these shows, you just found 8 other podcasts. So
yeah, that's what I thought was really cool about it, to tell you the truth. And you know what I really liked is like how I guess I'd consider my show a little different from your show, and we had Frank, and then I would even consider Whiskey and Beer's Conspiracy totally different too.
Yeah.
But like when me, Frank, and him came together, like we really, not to pat ourselves on the back, we killed that shit. I thought.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is wild how like 3 different type of shows just came together and covered a topic like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was
That's
really
what's going to be cool about it. No matter what show you listen to, if you listen to any of those roundtables, you are now going to get a whole new show out of it. Essentially, you're getting 3 people that don't really work together with 3 whole different thought processes and opinions on the subject matter. It was a cool project, and we got to get something like that going again.
Yeah, and I honestly have to say I was impressed that you even made it happen, you guys. Because I've heard that idea so many times. I think even Mike, when you messaged me, I was like, if you can make it happen, sure, it sounds great. Yeah, I'm down. And he did. I was like, damn, all right.
Yep.
So, good stuff. I look forward to that dropping. Yeah, people keep an eye out for that. That'll be dropping on the Occult Rejects. Definitely keep an eye out for the Urantia one. That's the one I was in. So, yeah, we got that coming. Also, check out the Element server. We have that. We got plenty of other shows in there. We got plenty of other rooms and topics. We do try to do. I know they do like. I think on the weekends, sometimes people from the Element server jump in a video chat live together. They chop it up. Sometimes we do like we watch things together. Check it out. Check out the TikTok if you want to check out my shit posting. And I do have another Twitter. Check that out. That's in the bottom as well. And I had a great time. Thank you, everybody who jumped in on the chat. That's why I do it. We had about 25 people at one point. That's what's up. Thank you
Nice.
very much. I'm not going to mention all the people that are in the chat, but you all know who you are. I appreciate you all for jumping in. And until the next one, everybody be well.